Yeah. So when it comes to, somebody that doesn't have much, that much resources, or even people who have a lot of resources, I mean, there's incredible things that we can do that are really inexpensive. And you are, a master at, understanding all these tools. So maybe we can go over some practical tools that people can utilize so they don't ever have to
Well, let's
get to the
talk about the
hospital.
first five again. I mean, if you don't listen to anything else or hear anything else that both of us are saying tonight, work hard on getting your affirmative mindset.
Mm.
And it was hard for me. I had to actually lie to myself at the beginning. After saying it, I'm happy, I started to become happy.
Oh,
And so
really?
that's number one. Number two, if you don't clean up your diet, you're a grand saboteur. And what I mean by that is you've got to get off all animal-based foods.
Mm.
In very simple terminology, animals are consuming grains that are filled with poison, genetic modification, heavy metals, pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, and they bioaccumulate. They're eating pounds and pounds, kilos of food a day that literally get into their cells, their tissue, and there's massive amounts of these poisons, noxious things. You got to get, and when I say animal foods, I'm talking about milk, I'm talking about cheese, I'm talking about butter, I'm talking about kefir, I'm talking about yogurt, I'm talking about fish, I'm talking about pork, I'm talking about chicken and turkey, and I'm talking about red meat. All of these things I haven't touched in over a half a century. This institute has never, ever given any of that to people. And as you know, we're most renowned for people coming here and reversing two things: major disease and aging. So that's number two.
Well, can I interrupt? What about the grass-fed, wild
No,
caught?
it's nonsense. Several of my books, I wrote one called Dairy Deception, Poison Poultry, Killer Fish. This is a yuppie thing. Let's explain it to you. That it's for white yuppies, pretty much with big wallets. They go into the markets and think, oh, I'm more humane because I'm getting an animal. A good friend of mine who's a doc basically looked at the propaganda that was out there by the so-called free range industry and said, we'd have to knock down all of the buildings and put 7 earths, not the earth we have. We need a replication, 6 more earths to actually humanely allow animals to graze on the land. You'd have no buildings and you just have that. So this is nonsense. So I actually show pictures in some of my presentations of the so-called organic and free range and cageless are in the same exact factory farms. Listen close, people. Same exact factory farms. And who regulates this? Not the government. The industry self-regulates. So free range is an example. You have to open the window in the horrible, catastrophic environment that they're in, pooping on top of one another, running around, sick as a dog, being shot with antibiotics, even though they're called organic. You open the window 30 minutes a day, you can call it free range. That's a fact. Cageless is even worse. There's a 15% higher incidence of death in cageless because they're happy you don't have to buy the cages and clean them. So they let the chickens and turkeys walk on top of one another. And the ones at the bottom die of ammonia poisoning. And I won't get into detail, but you know why. They're at the bottom and they get ammonia poisoning from that. All of this is crazy. I mean, just last week, Science Magazine reported a study where they actually looked at so-called free range meat, and it had similar levels of the antibiotics that other meats had in it. So this is really just to make you feel good about it. And there's no such thing as humane slaughtering. I mean, at the end of the day, you can actually torture somebody to die. That's what they're doing in this case. Or, by the way, you can just shoot them. The end result is death. And it's not necessary. So in my mind, it's very clear. If there's something that you do not need to consume that is not only questionable, but proven to be cancer causing, heart disease causing, diabetic causing, and environmental disaster, the number one reason we have environmental disaster today is people eat animals and consume their milk. This isn't an opinion. Every legitimate environmentalist in the world know this. So I see people driving Priuses and eating free range chicken. They're hypocrites. The reality is, I'm happy you're in the Prius. I'm happy you're in the electric car. I'm all for that. But the truth of the matter is that's a fraction of what eating meat and drinking milk out of a bosom of another creature does. So it's got to be that. It's got to be organic, because if you're not organic, it's another problem.